इंट्रो हुक ये वीडियो का वो हिस्सा है जो मुश्किल से 10, 15 या 30 सेकंड्स का होता है, बट यही डिसाइड करता है कि आपके वीडियो पे 100 व्यूज आएंगे या फिर 100K। मेरे चैनल पे करंटली 20 से भी ज्यादा वीडियोस पे 1 मिलियन व्यूज हैं एंड सच बताऊं तो इन वीडियोस पे इतने सारे व्यूज कभी नहीं आते हैं अगर इनका इंट्रो बोरिंग होता। सो आज मैं आपको बताऊंगा कि कैसे आप किसी भी यूट्यूब वीडियो के लिए सिर्फ 5 स्टेप्स में एक किलर इंट्रो हुक डिजाइन कर सकते हो। नो मैटर, वीडियो बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग होने वाली है। लेट्स बिगिन। तो अगर आप किसी भी वीडियो का रिटेंशन ग्राफ देखोगे तो आपको उसके स्टार्ट में एक बहुत बड़ा ड्रॉप ऑफ दिखेगा, which tells us कि मेजॉरिटी व्यूअर्स वीडियो को इंट्रो में ही छोड़ देते हैं। ना सोचो, अगर आप इस ड्रॉप ऑफ को मिनिमाइज कर पाते हो तो उसके वजह से लिटरली आपके पूरे वीडियो का रिटेंशन एक बार में इंप्रूव हो जाएगा। तो फिर क्वेश्चन है कि इस ड्रॉप ऑफ को मिनिमाइज कैसे करें? वेल, इसका आंसर आप मिस्टर बीस्ट से सुन लो।
Your title and thumbnail set expectations, and at the very beginning of the video, to minimize drop off, you want to assure them that those expectations are being met.
ओके, सो मिस्टर बीस्ट ने ये कहा कि आपका टाइटल और थंबनेल मिलके व्यूअर्स के माइंड में कुछ एक्सपेक्टेशंस क्रिएट करते हैं वीडियो के बारे में। तो अगर आप इस ड्रॉप ऑफ को मिनिमाइज करना चाहते हो देन आपको वीडियो के शुरू होते ही उन एक्सपेक्टेशंस को मीट करना होगा। अगर अभी भी नहीं समझ आया तो मिस्टर बीस्ट कहीं वीडियो का एग्जांपल लेते हैं। टाइटल है आई स्पेंड 7 days buried alive। थंबनेल में एक कॉफिन है जिसके अंदर मिस्टर बीस्ट।
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to crack the code on what is, without a doubt, the most important part of your YouTube video, those first 30 seconds. We are going to break down a formula for an intro that doesn't just get you clicks, but actually grabs a viewer's attention and refuses to let go.
And let's be real about the stakes here, because they are incredibly high. The difference between a video that pops off and one that just fizzles out, it almost always comes down to those first few moments. See, your intro isn't just a friendly hello. It is an all-or-nothing pitch for your viewers' most precious resource, their time. Now, if you're a creator, you've probably stared at a graph just like this one and maybe even felt a little bit of despair. This is the dreaded retention cliff. It shows how a massive chunk of your audience clicks away almost the second your video starts. It's a brutal reality, for sure. But you know what? Understanding this problem is the very first step to fixing it. So that's the big question, right? How do we fight this? How do we stop people from leaving and actually flatten that crazy downward curve? Well, the answer is a really powerful 5-step framework that's going to change the way you think about your intros forever. So here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with the absolute bedrock, the one thing all great intros have in common. Then we'll get into the fun stuff, building a story, making your video the obvious choice, and finally adding that little bit of magic that ties it all together. Okay, let's dive right into this framework. And I want you to think of these 5 steps less like a rigid step-by-step formula and more like a toolkit. These are powerful tools that, when you use them right, can completely transform how your videos perform from the very first second. We're going to walk through 5 crucial steps. But, you know, kind of like a great intro, we're not going to give it all away at once. We'll start with the most important piece of the puzzle, and then we'll build on it, creating a little bit of our own curiosity as we go. All right, step 1. This is the absolute foundation, and it's something that the biggest creators on the planet, like Mr. Beast, have totally mastered. And I'm serious here. If you get this one step wrong, the other 4 really don't matter. This is everything. So think about it this way. Your title and your thumbnail, they're not just clickbait, they are a promise. And your intro's #1 job, before anything else, is to deliver on that promise instantly. You have to reassure the viewer that yes, you clicked on the right video and you're about to get exactly what you came for.
And this is a perfect example. I mean, look at how tight this is. The title promises 7 days buried alive. What's the very first sentence out of his mouth? A direct repeat of that. The thumbnail shows him in a coffin, and the first shot is him in a coffin. There's absolutely zero confusion. The viewer knows they're in the right place.
And this isn't just a Mr. Beast thing either. The best of the best, like Mark Rober, they all do this. His video is called World's Largest Jello Pool. So what's the very first thing you see? A giant wobbly pool of Jello. The big takeaway here is that it doesn't have to be a word-for-word match, but it has to immediately confirm that initial expectation.
Okay, so you've delivered on your promise. The viewer's still there. Awesome. But, and this is a big but, you haven't totally won them over yet. Now you have to start weaving a story, giving them a really compelling reason to stick around. And that's where context and curiosity come in. Context is all about answering that little voice in the viewer's head that's asking, so what? Why should I care? You got to quickly explain the stakes or the purpose or why what they're about to see is actually important. You're not giving everything away, you're just giving them enough to understand why this video matters.
And the slide is great because it shows how context can work in totally different ways. On one hand, from Mark Rober, the context is all about setting up the stakes. Hey, this isn't just a silly stunt, it's a really hard engineering problem. But from Mr. Beast, the context creates an instant emotional hook by telling us these dogs were rescued. Both are incredibly powerful.
So once you have that context, you need to create what's called an open loop in the viewer's mind. It's basically a question or a mystery or some little gap in their knowledge that they suddenly feel this deep psychological need to close. And of course, the only way they can close it is by watching your video.
And there are so many ways to do this. You can just ask a direct question, what would it feel like to do X? You could tease a unique idea with a cool name, like Ali Abdal's GPS method. It just makes you go, wait, what is that? Or you can do what Mr. Beast does and show a super fast montage of all the crazy stuff that's coming up.
All right, so meeting expectations and creating curiosity. That's awesome. But let's be real for a second. YouTube is a very, very crowded place. You also have to prove why your video is the one they should watch, and not the dozen other similar videos sitting right there in their recommendations.
A differentiator is your secret weapon. It's that one thing that answers the viewer's unspoken question. Why should I watch you? It's the signal you send to their brain that says, hey, this video has something special that you are not going to find anywhere else.
I mean, what a statement. When Eamon Gaji says this at the beginning of a video about making money, he's not just bragging. He is instantly establishing rock-solid authority. It tells the viewer's brain, okay, this guy actually knows what he's talking about. I should probably listen.
And your differentiator can be so many different things. It could be expertise, like Ali Abdaal saying he's read every book on a topic. It could be a huge investment of money or time. It could even be something as simple as your unique personality or your editing style. Anything that makes your video stand out is a potential differentiator.
Okay, we've made it to our final step. This is the one that so many creators just totally ignore, but it adds this invisible layer of quality that makes a huge difference. We're also going to cover a few key rules of thumb for putting this whole 5-step framework together.
This quote is just perfect. Great sound design, the music, the subtle sound effects, it all works on a subconscious level. You might not actively notice it when it's there, but it is completely dictating the mood, the energy, and the emotional feel of your intro. Without it, even the best intro can just feel kind of flat and empty. And please remember, these 5 steps are a guide. They're not some strict formula you have to follow every single time. The order of context, curiosity, and your differentiator, mix them up. Find what feels natural for your story. Not every intro is even going to need all 5 elements. The most important thing is to always think like a viewer. What would make you want to stick around? Because at the end of the day, it's not just about knowing these 5 steps. It's about actually using them. So as you start planning your next video, I want you to think about this question. What is the one single thing you can change in your intro based on what you learned today? Because answering that